In my lifetime, I've had the honor and the privilege. I've met a couple of presidents. I have known many very high-level religious figures, political leaders, social architects, scientists, engineers, indigenous elders from all over the world. And every one of them, in their way, has said to me, Greg, we knew this change was coming. They've been telling us, the indigenous people, for thousands of years. Others have known. They all knew that a change, a shift is coming. And every one of those people, down to the last one, has told me they are absolutely blown away by how fast the shift is happening. No one ever thought it was going to happen so quickly. Now, when it comes to the way that people change, I think in the New Thought, New Age movement, there was a belief that was instilled back in the 1980s during the harmonic convergence. Y'all remember the harmonic convergence? I want to tell you how naive I was. I didn't know about it. I was an engineer in the defense industry, and the first time I heard somebody ask about the harmonic convergence, I thought they were talking about a rock group that was coming to Denver called the Harmonica Virgins. If you say it really fast, it sounds like that, you know? So I had no idea what it was, but that was a time in alignment on the Mayan calendar that preceded 2012. And everybody said, okay, you know, everything's going to change after that. And then 2012, everybody said, okay, everything's going to change after that. I think there was an idea that was instilled that all of a sudden, this change, we would wake up in the morning or maybe before we went to bed some night, and everything was going to shift. And what I'm seeing happening, is that possible? Yes, it's possible. Is it realistic? Probably not. I think what's happening is people are changing in response to certain things in their lives that challenge them. That's when they make the individual change. People that have never bought into anything going on at all, what they've said is something is up, something's going on, because it affected them in a way that they could not ignore. It's about people's healthcare decisions, it's about sustainability. But what I'm seeing, when you see the kind of television program, for example, that you see now that used to be relegated to a few special channels or the occult section of a bookstore 20 years ago, and now it's mainstream television, 2020, you know, or BBC Investigates or something like that. You know there's a shift when those kinds of things become mainstream, when these conversations become mainstream. So those are all shifts that tell me there is something happening, and I am seeing a tremendous shift. Where I'm seeing it most is in the general population like this. Where I'm seeing it the least is in the leadership of our nations. However, I am seeing that change as well. I think it has to, because we're all in this together. So we are optimistic. We do see a shift in the awareness, and it's coming about sometimes in ways that you don't always expect. Physicists throughout the world are struggling to build a new story of you, me, our creation, and the beginning of our universe, because the old story is no longer working. Science is about 300 years old. Science for 300 years has been struggling to come up with what is called a unified field theory. It's a theory that unifies the old physics, the new physics. It's a story in mathematic terms that is about us, how the universe began and where we fit in, and they have yet to find that story. They cannot find that unified field because the thinking of the way the two levels of physics is incomplete. And the piece that they've left out is consciousness. Traditionally, scientists have been reluctant or resistant to include consciousness in the unified field theory. John Wheeler, Professor John Wheeler, Princeton University, just died a few years ago. He was a colleague of Albert Einstein's, and he was one of the last bright lights in the world of physics that was a proponent of consciousness being a fundamental force in the universe. And what he said, this is so elegant, what he said, we will never find the smallest particle of matter, and we will never find the edge of the universe. We keep sending space probes out, and they go further and further, and every time the scientists say, oh, I think we found the edge of the universe, and they look, and there's something else there. And every time they bang these quantum particles together at the speed of light, and they shatter them into these tiny, tiny fundamental pieces, looking for the smallest piece of matter, and they think they've got it. They look, and then there's something even smaller. John Wheeler said it will always be that way, and here's the reason why. He said it is the act of consciousness looking at itself that is a creative act in and of itself. The act of looking for a smaller particle will promise that we always create something for us to see, no matter how small it gets. The act of looking for the edge of the universe promises no matter how far out we go, the act of us looking will create something for us to put there. Consciousness is what's missing in those fundamental forces. So, the Hadron Collider, or CERN, you all know about the CERN Collider. What they are doing is attempting in the laboratory to recreate the moment, the instant that the universe began, by colliding these quantum particles together at the speed of light. There's a 7-mile tube going one direction under the ground and a 7-mile tube going the other direction, and each tube they begin to accelerate a quantum particle until it's reaching the speed of light, and they're going in opposite directions, and at just the right instant they collide them together to recreate those first moments so that they can see what those fundamental laws are all about. Until they acknowledge the role of consciousness in that moment, that instant, I think we're going to come up short with this fundamental story, this story of creation. If we've been looking for 300 years using the best minds, the best equipment, the most money from government funding, and we haven't found it in 300 years, doesn't that tell you maybe we're not on the right track? That's what it says to me. They just keep building bigger and bigger machines that are going to collide these things faster. We're learning a lot, but it's not telling them what they want to know because they've left that part out. And the part they're leaving out, that's where this is interesting, is quantum experiments have shown that the particles behave one way when nobody's looking, and they behave another way when someone is looking. To see a bunch of French and Swiss scientists watching this fundamental moment of creation, the question is, how much effect is it really having?